If you're watching this video, you've probably had some experiences with pressure washer hoses. Today we're going to talk about the difference between your original consumer style hose versus a much better hose that's available on the market. The hoses we're talking about are primarily focused on pressure washers that are 3,600 psi or lower. They're going to have your 22 millimeter screw-on connection as opposed to the quick disconnect. To show you a difference between the hoses, your black hose is your typical consumer grade hose rated up to about 3,000 psi. We're going to compare it to the Vortex hose, which has a rating of 4,000 psi. Now first, let's start off by doing a flexibility test. And try and put these the same length hanging down so I can show you the difference when I go to bend them. And I want to make this a fair test. So if I go and do that, you can see how much more flexible the Vortex hose is. Your black hose is typically not bend resistant. A hose should not do that. This is going to give the hose a weak point. Your Vortex hose, although it will kink, it comes back. It has its natural form still, where you're always going to have that flat spot in your consumer grade hose. The other difference is your original consumer grade hose is going to have a much harder plastic. It's not as abrasion resistant, meaning when it's running on asphalt or concrete or vibrating against a hard surface, it's going to sand that coating off, eventually showing the weave underneath, giving you a weak point, and that's where your hose is going to blow at. The Vortex hose is very abrasion resistant, is not going to give you that wear and tear that a consumer grade hose is going to, and because it's a lot more flexible and a higher pressure rating, it's going to give you 3 to 5 more years than a consumer grade hose. Let's hook up the two hoses as a comparison and show you what the difference is in pressure capabilities. Let's start with the original consumer grade hose. Now I've added quick disconnects to make this a lot easier. I would also recommend that you add these to make connecting your hoses easier each time you go to use the pressure washer. So we're hooked up here. We're on a 3,400 psi pressure washer. I've got a gauge here so you'll be able to see how much pressure we're getting that we're actually putting through this hose. I've got the machine currently set for about 3,000 psi. I don't want to push that limit because we're likely going to break it, and there's no point in doing that. So right now you can see we're working at 3,000 psi, trapping pressure about 3,300. And here's a good example. Your cheaper hose is more likely to leak. Now look at the difference in the flexibility on this one. This is very stiff. It's not a forgiving hose when trying to move it. Now let's disconnect this hose and try one of the Vortex hoses. Now even before we hook them up and put them under pressure, this hose acts like an extension cord. Very flexible. Where the consumer grade hose is a lot stiffer. It's flexing, but you can see that coil tendency. Now with the Vortex hose, we've got the pressure adjusted higher on this one to roughly 3,500 psi. Let's see how it does. So right now we're working at 3,500 psi, trapping at 3,800 psi. Hose is still holding up. Now when I stretch this out, what I want you to do is observe how flexible this hose is. working at 3,500 PSI, it's got a lot of flexibility, like an extension cord. And because of the texture of the jacket, it's very forgiving against the rough surface of an asphalt or concrete driveway. So your Vortex hose is going to give you a lot more life. It's going to be a lot more forgiving when you're trying to use it. But maybe you want to go a little bit better than this. Vortex has an even stronger hose. This one wire braided on the inside, still very flexible. You can't kink it, but it's rated up to 4,400 PSI. It's got quick disconnects on it. So if you've got a pressure washer that's already got that, it's already set up that way. Let's hook it up and show you how flexible this one is. Again, we're working at 3,500 PSI, trapping at 39, 38. Now again, watch how flexible this is when I'm using it. Your Vortex hoses are the most flexible and durable hoses and highest pressure rated on the market for the type of pressure washer you're typically using. They're available in 25-foot and 50-foot lengths. Quick disconnect kits are readily available and fit all sizes and styles of pressure washers. Thanks for watching.